With the introduction of being able to ride animals in Fortnite, you might think, oh, it's a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to ride animals in the game considering I can shoot and also build on them. But it's not so simple. Using animals in the game can lead to your advantage and also your disadvantage. And in today's video, we're going to check that out. What is going on YouTube? My name is Onyi. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and you like the video if you haven't yet already. I'm just a small YouTuber. Use code Onyi in the Fortnite item store. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first things first, if you don't know how to tame animals in Fortnite, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is jump onto their backs. Now, for the most part, I find this is a lot easier to do with hogs rather than wolves in the game. If you try and ride wolves in the game, for the most part, I feel like you end up taking damage. They will eventually hit you, and they hit you for a little bit more than hogs. So I try to avoid them and use hogs exclusively. You can see animals have a stamina bar. This is above your health bar in the game, and you can also see the animal's health bar. The animal's health bar is 120, and the bar above that is their amount of stamina. Now, this goes down if you're just running generally in the game. If you hold the sprint button, which you can bind, as you can note here, right under where my webcam goes in the game, jump twice in the air to dismount, charge, and dismount. So using those controls or binding those controls, and which you can find if you go into your settings menu, you go into your keyboard or your mouse settings, and you scroll down to the very bottom after all of the vehicles, you have your animal keybinds here. So unfortunately, animals you can't use permanently in the game. They will eventually run out of the amount of stamina to carry you around, and they will get too exhausted. This is what a hog looks like when it has no stamina left. There is some benefits to riding animals in the game. Firstly, when riding animals in the game, you don't take fall damage. Do note, I've only built up 3 stories here, but animals actually do take fall damage at 3 stories in the game, unlike people. If you're building into either higher heights in the game and you end up falling down from those high heights, the animal will completely absorb the fall damage and you won't take any at all. So this is pretty good, say if you're especially building into high build battles. But animals can actually be a major disadvantage when it comes to build battles in the game, because it changes your FOV. Normally when you play Fortnite, your character is more centered in the middle of the screen compared to how it looks now, and I've actually built a graphic for this. As you can see here, I have lined up an image here to show you the third person view of what you see when you're riding an animal versus not in the game. For example, here, standing still in the exact same spot, this is lined up perfectly as I've lined up the reticle and door frame in the game. This is actually the difference of what this looks like in the game. If you're on an animal, you're more displaced to the left side of your screen. So if someone does happen to push your left side, not only are you going to have to make a bigger turn in order to see them, if someone pushes your left side, you might not see them at all due to the animal obstructing your view. Now this is very prominent in the game, especially while you're shooting on animals. As you can see, this is shooting normally in the game, and this here is shooting while on an animal. So although you might free up a bit of space on the right hand of the screen, I think it's better to have a line of sight on both the left and right side of the screen so you can tell if someone's pushing you or where someone is. Now I have pushed people with animals before, even during build fights, and this actually obstructed my view so much to the point I didn't even see the person exit the box. So it can be beneficial, but say for example, if I am going to fight someone here and I'm going to fight this hog, and this hog is on my left side, it's a lot more of a turn to see where they are in comparison to say if I wasn't on the animal, because I am not as centered in the screen. Do note you can also get on and off animals by holding down a selective button in the game. I prefer to jump off them, but also if you walk up to them generally, you can press a button to get on and you can hold a button generally to jump off. This also comes in the point of the best way I reckon to approach someone or attack someone on an animal. I never recommend standing still while on an animal in the game, because this makes your hitbox a lot bigger. Say if I do a really poor example of a paint diagram for you guys. Say this is the animal's hitbox here. This becomes your hitbox when you're sitting on the animal because you are in a seated position. Compared to if you're just standing up straight, your hitbox is not as wide, so it's less likely for people to hit snipes on you. On top of that as well, your head becomes at a lower height when you're on top of an animal or mounted on an animal. So if someone is going to be trying to hit you, hitting headshots is a lot easier. My favorite part about riding animals in the game is it turns any hill into a moving hill in game. This includes minis, big pots, and medkits and everything else in between. So should you use animals? Yes or no? I think for the most part they're fantastic to use. I think you should, every single time you run into one, tame it. It's a great way to make sure you can rotate to zone really easily. And it also, if you're sprinting from people and say if someone's at range trying to shoot you, they're more likely to hit the animal than you, although it does change the positioning of your hitbox. In close range fights, I recommend dismounting as soon as possible. And remember, when you dismount, you get launched in the air if you do it properly. So what you can do is you can get height very easily if you dismount in the right manner in game. On top of that as well, if you're pushing someone in zero build mode, you can line up easy headshots or easy sprays in the game as well. because you can launch over the top of their head and have better height and faster movement than they can just stand alone on their feet. It's also worthwhile noting that you can heal animals in the game. You can heal them with splashes in the game as well as slope chugs. I found when the season first started, for some reason chug cannons did not work on the animals at all. Hogs can eat all forms of food. That includes cabbages, meat, fishes, clomberries, everything else in between if they do end up taking fall damage. Unfortunately, for some reason, wolves can only eat meat and fishes in the game also. It's very important to note as well why dismounting off animals or jumping off animals mid-air does not cancel your fall damage at all. Do you note here, I throw down this fish here, the hog will end up eating it and his health will go a lot higher. As you can tell, my man is now full HP. Remember, riding animals in the game does not provide the exact same benefits and mechanics as you would if you're running on feet in the game. You cannot slide while on animals, so don't even bother trying. Wolves in the game are more aggressive, and I do believe they may be faster. The way that we're going to test the speed is we're going to have the wolf and the boar do a little race, and we're going to line them up from the same point in time. And we'll hit this with a running sprint off the rip also. You can see where the road lines up here, so they're starting at the same point. And somehow, surprisingly, the result from this video is hogs are faster in the game. Do keep an eye out for patch notes in the future though, because Fortnite may change this. Do take note here as well, while I jump off the boar and I do end up feeding it food, this will replenish the boar's stamina. As you can see now, it now has full sprinting capabilities and I'm able to use it again. When it does run out of full sprinting capabilities, it does take a relative while for its stamina to come back, and its stamina never comes back completely. I find the wolves help out generally more in fights in the game, so do take note of that because the boars aren't as aggressive. Wolves have a total of 250 HP and boars have a total of 120 HP, so wolves are better in the game if you want to have a so-called vehicle with more durability. While holding down sprint completely in the game, the boar's total amount of sprint lasts for a total of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. When I tested out the total amount of sprint that wolves had in the game, it turns out to be the exact same amount of time. Make sure to keep note of patch notes in the game because this may change in the future. Something that's important to note, although animals do not change your FOV while shooting in the game or while building in the game, while sprinting on animals, your FOV does actually change in the game and it punches itself out a little bit, so you can see more on your left and right side before it becomes so tired that it will kick you off. Do note, even if you try to feed your boar or you try to heal it after exhausting its stamina, it will take a while before its stamina comes back before it can even stand up to try and attempt to eat it. Every single thing you do feed your animals gives it back a certain amount of health. Clomberries heal for a lot more than apples, but they do heal for a large amount compared to everything else in the game. Also note that animals only have white health, so if you do hit them with a mushroom, the mushroom will only apply to you because animals cannot have shield. Boars and wolves actually have set spawns in the game. If you visit fortnite.gg, you can check out this map here. Do take note, I believe that wolves spawn more likely when the sun starts setting in the game or when it becomes night in the game, and boars there's just an abundance of, so you find them all the time. That being said, although it's important to note that you can ride wolves and you can ride hogs in the game, you cannot ride sharks in the game and you cannot ride crows. However, if you did not know, you haven't played the game, or you're new to the game, you actually can ride sharks if you use a fishing rod. I think it's important to note for the most part as well, unfortunately you cannot upgrade animals in the game, as funny as that would be. I've tried it before many times. If you're trying to fill your hog up with fuel, it will not replenish its stamina, or if you try and repair it with a blowtorch, unfortunately it won't do anything to it either. Oh. So those are animals in the game for Fortnite. I don't think it's worth it if you're in a close range fight due to the way that it changes your camera positioning in game. However, I do believe using animals in order to rotate and in order to quickly jump height when approaching people is very advantageous. What do you guys think? Do you guys like using animals in the game? Anyway, my name is Onyi. Make sure you leave the video with a like rating and subscribe down below already if you haven't yet already. Plenty of good, more tips and tricks videos to come in the future. Check out all the links down in the description if you want to follow more of me around the internet. That includes Twitch and also my Discord and Twitter. And I'll catch all you guys on the flip side. Goodbye.